Hey, Katie from Cottage Garden Threads and Tack It Easy, and today I'm talking about the Tack It Easy gadget, how it came about, what made me think of it, and how it's used, and the reason why people are loving it. So let me introduce you to the Tack It Easy gadget. Now, how it first came about was that I decided to make myself a 1¼ inch hexagon quilt. And with great ambition, I decided to make a king-sized quilt. And I worked out I would need about over 2,500 hexies to make this quilt. So off I go, setting about collecting fabrics, and I decided to use Liberty Tana Lawn and also some other fabrics in there, and some vintage embroideries too. So I started collecting my fabrics, cutting all my hexagon shapes out, and decided to go with a glue basting method because I don't have a lot of time between working full time and a bunch of kids and life. So I wanted something pretty efficient and decided to go with glue basting. So I got myself a glue pen as well. This is a Soline glue pen and just standard papers, and set about cutting myself hundreds of Liberty and Fabrics hexagons and started glue basting. Now, what I very quickly discovered is that I am quite a clumsy person and ended up with glue all over my fingers, and they'd get stuck to the fabric, stuck to the papers, and it wasn't as enjoyable as what it was meant to be. So I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. So I set about thinking about, what's something that can help with this, and I come up with a prototype that I made out of a cut up cereal box of what was the very first Tack It Easy gadget. Now, it worked brilliantly. I was so happy that it absolutely solved my problem of getting sticky fingers and mess everywhere, and it really sped up the process. The problem was that it just broke after only a few hexagons. So I got on the phone to a dear friend of mine who is an engineer, and I said, look, I think that I have invented something and I think it could be really good, but the problem is that it's just breaking apart when it's made out of cardboard. So he did some research and actually sourced a material that the Tack It Easy is still made out of today. So it looks like cardboard, but it is in fact not cardboard. It is a fibrous board. That means it doesn't break. So it's able to be folded thousands and thousands of times. So I'll show you the quilt that got started with all of this. And I actually still haven't finished it yet. It is still a work in progress, and I'm still using the Tack It Easy gadget. Although my 9-year-old daughter now, she preps all of my hexies for me because it is so simple to use that she can use the Tack It Easy gadget, no problems, to help me get prepped. So it's getting there. It is getting there, and I am loving making it. And the greatest thing about using the Tack It Easy is that I can have everything prepped and I can have more time stitching and enjoying the process without getting sticky fingers. But along the way, I found that there are several other benefits to the gadget that I didn't actually realize to start with. So not only is it quick and less sticky fingers, less messy, it makes the hexagons a lot more accurate. So the edges, and I've got a couple I prepared earlier, actually that Dot prepared earlier, my daughter. So here are a few that have been prepared, and the edges from point to point, it actually makes them so much more accurate than if you are doing it by hand, because when you're doing it by hand, you can tend to have a different tension on the folding, and it does create slightly different sized edges. So when you are stitching them together, you have to kind of fudge them together, but this actually makes them more accurate and so easier to sew together. Another one of the benefits that we have had great feedback on is that it is great for people with weak hands or arthritis, because there isn't as much fine motor movement that needs to happen with the folding. It's just simply folding it over, which you'll see in a minute exactly how it works. But it means that people with weak hands and arthritis are just getting so much more time to be able to do what they love, and more stitching time. So that's an amazing benefit that I didn't even know when I first come up with it, and that's really lovely to know that it is helping people prolong being able to stitch and do what they love. Another benefit of the Gadget is that it will prolong the life of your papers. So it will still be able to be used, the papers, when they're all folded up, because you've used it so many times in the same project or in other projects, and it's all ready. You folded it to stitch them together, so you've got creases, you've got folds, and even some little like dog ears and tears and things like that. You can still use those with the Gadget. So of course, once I had designed the Gadget and we got that working and really happy with the results, I designed a template to go with the Gadget. And I'll talk you through the template and the benefits of using both together shortly. Let's talk about the Tack It Easy acrylic templates that come in these sets. A bit hard to see here, so I've just sat it on top of the Gadget. The way that these are a little bit different to others that are out there is that I prefer a slightly smaller than 1/4 inch seam allowance. So from the outside of the template to that first score line is the seam allowance, because you just don't need a whole 1/4 inch. It works perfectly with this amount and is saving you on some fabric. And especially as you get into doing smaller shapes, having a 1/4 inch seam allowance, it just gets to be too bulky and a waste of fabric. I've also added onto the templates, you can see these score lines that go from point to point on each side. And these are a guide for if you're wanting to do fussy cutting and lining up your prints on your fabric. You can use these guides and the center point to make sure you're getting that print exactly where you want it to be. And the holes that are at each point and in the center are for using either a sharpened grey lead to be able to put through the hole and put marks, or you can use a fine tip pen, a Pigma pen, so make sure it's a permanent pen, to use those holes to mark your fabric. So that's for really precise cutting. If you're doing your fussy cutting and you need to know that you are lining it up perfectly, so you can mark your points with those templates. So each of the templates has the size written on it there and a hole for easy storage to hang them together. And another little adaptation that I made is to ensure that when you're using your Gadget, and I'm just lining it up there right in the center, and it's a bit hard to see here, but you'll notice that the score line on the Tack It Easy Gadget and the actual score line of the edge of where would be the edge of your hexagon is not quite the same. And I've done that on purpose to allow for the fabric, because if they were exactly the same, then it's going to shift when you're using it because there's too much bulk. Because adding the fabric onto the paper, it actually makes it a little bit larger. So I've put on just a little bit extra, so that is allowing for the width of your fabric. A few different methods for using the templates to cut your hexies. You can use a rotary cutter. I've got a nice little one here for getting around the edges, or you can just use your scissors to cut them out. So I like to cut them in bulk, so I've got heaps ready to go. So I've got some fabric here, and this is 2 layers of this fabric, so I think that must be a fat eighth size maybe. And I think I'll get, if I fold that in half again, and this is a Liberty Tana lawn, so it's nice and fine, so I can get through a lot of layers at once. I'm going to see if that will fit on there. And what you want to do when you're cutting out your fabric, you want to do it in the most economical way possible, so you've got not much wastage on your fabric. So if you really wanted to use absolutely every bit of space of your fabric, then you would cut them out and nest them in together. So you would cut out a hexagon and then butt the next end up, and the next one, and then in the next row it will actually nest in, just like when you're sewing your hexies together. So you can nest them all in. That takes a little bit more time, but if you really want to make the most out of your fabric, or you've got limited fabric and you need to make sure that you've got enough for your project, you can do it that way. So you can either, and on the back of your fabric, you can either mark it, so going right up to the edges, you can mark it with a pencil or that Pigma pen, like a permanent marking pen. You can mark it and then you can cut out with your scissors that way. A bit hard to see there, but you've got the grey lead on there, and you can use your marking points if you were going to be fussy cutting those. But I'm going to do it in bulk so that I can get a lot done in a short amount of time. So I'm going to fold that up 4 times. I'm still going to think about the way that I'm putting the template down. I've got the flat edge here so that they will nest together. If I put the pointed edge here, pointed, I'm going to have to put point to point, so I'm going to lose quite a lot of fabric there. So if I put the flat edge up against right up against the edge of the fabric and the flat edge here, then I can nest together the hexagons all along this strip. And I'll use the small rotary cutter. You can use a rotating cutting mat if you like. I'm not on a rotating one here, so just cutting, going around. Kind of moving that out of the way. You do kind of twist yourself up in knots a little bit here. So just being very careful. These are super sharp. Do not recommend for children to use. And so that's given me 4 hexagons ready to baste. The other way, if you don't have a smaller rotary cutter and you're using your scissors, you can just hold it in place. And the great thing is you don't have to be absolutely 1000% precise. You can be a little bit off or a little bit wonky, and that's the great thing about English paper piecing, that it is quite forgiving. So I can just hold, just kind of rotate it in my hand, line it up. This is great if you don't have a lot of space, you're kind of traveling with it, you're on the go, you just want to get a few cut out, and you just hold it. And there you go, you've got them there ready to go. So a few different ways that you can be cutting out the hexies. Same with all types of fabric. You just might not get through quite as many layers if you're using a heavier weight, like a patchwork weight or a linen or something like that. So let's tack some hexies. And this is the first time using this gadget. So if you are using the gadget for the first time, it's really important that you need to crack it before you start using it. And what I mean by cracking it is that you want to bend each of the petals in, and you'll hear a little sound. It's not quite like a crack, but so you're just folding all of the petals inwards to get them ready to use. So it's just really important that you only fold them in this way when you're using it. So keep your printed information here, and only folding to the inside. If you turn it over and you're going to fold them the other way, it will actually weaken the material. So you don't want to do that. You want to be using it one way only. I've got the hexies that I cut out earlier, and I'm going to line up the edge of the fabric with that score line on the Gadget. There's a score line there. Or you can just have a look at the corners, and the corners will come up and line up there. But as I said, you don't have to be absolutely precise with this. This is the beauty of it. You just want to get it mainly centered. If there's a side that's cut a little bit wrong, it's not going to be a huge issue. You just want to get it as centered as possible. And then your paper just goes down, and again, just center it there. So looking at the points, they're pointing out to each of the corners. Glue pen, I use the Soline brand glue pen. These can be used with like the school glue sticks. I prefer these because they are made especially for fabrics. So they're not going to put any acids or anything onto your fabrics, and your fabrics will last a lot longer. Okay, so glue stick, just one line of glue along the edge. I was a little bit heavy on that there, and just pressing over, and that is going to press the side down. And I like to just swivel mine, so still keeping your fingers on the Gadget in the middle, and then another line of glue from one edge, so you want to go on the fabric to the other edge, and then just fold the petal down, and then rotate it so that I can do the next side, folding down, rotate, other side, folding down. And if it hasn't stuck all the way, you can just fold it down and press it again. And again, folding down, swivel. This edge here, you want to go on that first, and then the other end, and come up so that you're getting both edges of the fabric, and then that's going to fold down there. So you can see that I probably haven't placed my fabric exactly in the center, but it doesn't actually matter. You have folded over, it is glued, it is good to sew together. And all of the edges are going to be exactly the same, which is great for accuracy with lining up your hexies and stitching them together. You know that they're all going to be exactly the same because you've used the Gadget. Each of these edges is exactly the same, so it's going to give you that great result. So we'll do another one here. Now, if you put your fabric down and you get your paper, and if you haven't put it exactly center, you'll kind of feel when you fold it over, if you get a bit too much resistance here, like it's trying to fold the paper, you can just lighten up the pressure and let it shift it over. So it kind of gives it a little nudge to move it over. So then spin around, again down there. And so you can see this becomes very, very quick process as you get into the flow of it, and you can prepare so many hexies in such a short amount of time. So my 9-year-old actually, she does all of my hexies for me. So she prepared all of these ones for my quilt for me. It's great. She loves doing it. It's really quick and easy and fun for her to do. So she gets them all prepared for me. And some of these are using papers that have been used many, many, many times. So you can see there that's got a lot of creases in it. It's been used a lot of times. Some newer ones, all ready to stitch into my quilt. I've just used the inside of a biscuit packet to store the hexies. It's just, yeah, very handy, and separated my colours with the quilting clips so that when I'm deciding, I've got my quilt out and I'm kind of deciding what colour is going to go next, is I can take them out and I can actually hold it in there and audition it for that spot and pop it back, so it keeps it nice and organised. Some frequently asked questions about the Tack It Easy gadget and templates. Number one, how long will it last? Because it doesn't look very durable because it is cardboard. But like I explained earlier, it's actually made out of a fibrous board. So it will last for thousands and thousands of folds, and if used correctly. So I've been working on this quilt for a few years now using the exact same Tack It Easy gadget. And you can see that it has had quite a lot of use. And this brings me to the next frequently asked question. What happens if it gets glue on it? So you can either just have a little scrap of fabric nearby and you can just wipe it off and it's fine. Or it's not the end of the world if you get some glue on it, because it will just dry. So you can see this one that I've been using for thousands of hexies, and now my 9-year-old daughter has been using it, and let's just say she's a little bit more liberal with the glue and has got quite a bit of glue there, but it just dries in a few minutes if you're not wiping it off, if it stays on there, and it's fine. It doesn't matter, it's no longer sticky, it's dried, so it doesn't actually affect the performance at all of the gadget if you do get a little bit of glue on there. The next frequently asked question is, can you use all types of fabric with the gadget? So with my quilt, like I said, I have got majority of Liberty Tana Lawn in here, which is quite a fine fabric, but it also works beautifully with patchwork weight fabric and even with a heavier linen. The only thing with the heavier linen is it might just need a little bit more pressure, a little bit more squishing down to get that glue to really stick there for it. But I have several hexies, and these are some of the vintage linens that I've cut up, and you can see the Tack It Easy gadget has worked beautifully with these as well. So that is a bit heavier weight fabric, and the same with your patchwork weight fabric, works beautiful as well. So it can be used for all different fabric weights. Let's talk about papers. So the Tack It Easy gadget is compatible with any standard size papers. So you can cut out your own, you can purchase pre-cut papers, and also the EpiFlex. So I've done some testing and it works brilliantly with the EpiFlex if you're a fan, and also the Helen Stubbings semi-soluble iron-on hexies as well. Works beautifully with both of those too. Another question I've been asked is, can you use squares? And yes, you can absolutely use squares in the Tack It Easy hexagon. So you can just cut your fabric into squares, just measure from point to point on your template and cut out your squares. And away you go. Works exactly the same. Another question we've been being asked, and a lot lately, because now a lot of people have the gadgets and they're absolutely loving them, is, are we going to do more shapes? And the answer is absolutely yes. We've got a couple of different shapes in development. The hardest bit is deciding which ones we're going to do next, because there's so many possibilities. So stay tuned for some more shapes, and please comment below what shapes you would like to see. What English paper piecing shapes do you love using? The only thing I haven't quite got my brain around yet is how we're going to do curves. So for now, it's going to be anything with the straight edge shape, but in the future, who knows? So how do the Tack It Easy hexagons come? They come in a set of 7 sizes. So the 7 sizes begin at, put this over here for you, it's a little baby 1/2 inch hexagon here. And then we have the 3/4 inch hexagon. We have the 1 inch hexagon. We also have the 1 1/4, which is the one that I've been demonstrating with. Then we have the 1.5, 1 3/4, and the 2-inch. So all of those sizes in the set, and of course they come with the accompanying acrylic templates. Available separately to that set is a very common size that was requested a lot, and that is the 5/8 of an inch. So that is available separately, and that is a set with the template and the gadget as well. The set also comes with a handy ring for storage. So if you haven't been following along in the Tack It Easy journey, let me fill you in. So over the last couple of years, I think I invented this gadget in 2020. So it would have been right in the COVID times, right when I actually had a little bit more time to do some stitching. And we had our first production runs done, and that was fantastic. And the great friend of mine who actually helped me to source the material for these also was the person who was cutting all of them on his laser cutting machines, both the templates and the gadgets. And that was great until we actually broke his machine. So it became so popular, and as a one-man operation and a backyard operation, it was just a bit too much to ask for him to continue being bombarded with the orders. So we decided that the next step for the Tack It Easy was to find a larger supplier that could be trusted with the gadget to get it just right. And it took a few months of doing that. So unfortunately, we couldn't actually sell the Tack It Easy for a few months until we could find, secure, and get into production with our new suppliers. So that has happened. We have them back in stock. It is very exciting, and the possibility for more shapes in the future. So it's been quite a bumpy ride, but the exciting part about it is how much feedback we've had from the gadgets, of how much people love them. So they really are a game changer for English paper piecing. Now, some of the feedback that we have had across socials is that, you know, stitching is a slow, it's a slow thing. We do it to slow down, so why would you want to speed it up? And for me, the answer is time, because in today's world, we are so busy, and you ask any crafter, any stitcher, any sewer, you know, what, if you could have one wish, what would it be? And I don't know about you, but a lot of them would say more time. Time to get all the things that I want to get done. Time to get through all the projects that I've got sitting there waiting for me. You know, people know that they have so many more fabrics than they're ever going to be able to use. So the Tack It Easy gadget for me is a way of granting you that wish in getting back a little bit more time, because it makes the process so much quicker and more accurate, so that you can spend more time doing what you really love. Some other comments that I've had are, you know, I'll never glue based, I'll only ever thread based. And hey, totally up to you. The reason I decided to go with glue basting, one, it is quicker for me, but two, if you haven't noticed it in my videos and close-ups of my hands, is that I have, unfortunately, small little thumbs. So they are thumbs in the videos, they are not big toes. But what this means for me is that holding things for a prolonged period of time, it aches in my hands, in my thumbs, it begins to ache. So thread basting for me, and holding the thread, the fabric, having to hold it at that right tension to get it over the shape, and then doing the thread basting, it wasn't enjoyable for me, and I ended up with aching thumbs. So that's why I decided to go with thread basting. But hey, you do you. The gadget is just here to make your life easier, if that's what you'd like. So I hope this has answered all your questions about the Tack It Easy, and now you know how it works, all you need to know now is where you can find it. So if you jump online to www.cottagegardenthreads.com.au, I'll pop the link in the description down below. You can grab yourself some Tack It Easy gadgets and templates. And also while you're there, sign up to our newsletter and you will get any news about the new shapes that we come out with or projects that I create using the Tack It Easy gadgets. So stay tuned, exciting things ahead.